Let's take a closer look at this week's math journal assignment. But first, some interesting facts about honeybees. Did you know honeybees have been producing honey for more than 150 million years? They gather nectar from flowers. You can see this honeybee getting ready to do just that. Then they convert the nectar to honey and store it as food in the beehive. A colony of honeybees actually produces more honey than it needs, which is good because humans kind of like to eat the leftover honey after the bees have had their fill. And beekeepers have harvested honey for people to eat for over 6,000 years. Now, a few more facts for you. Hello, I'm back. You may not have known this, some of you may have, but our very own Mrs. Wall is a beekeeper for real. She has 20 hives, and each hive has about 75,000 honeybees. Okay, now your first question is how could you find out about how many honeybees Mrs. Wall has? Now, please pay very close attention to this. I did not ask you to tell me the number of how many honeybees Mrs. Wall has. Okay, so if you write an answer here, that's a number. That's not answering the question that I asked you. Please pay very close attention, okay? Let's go over it one more time. The question is, how could you find out about how many honeybees Mrs. Wall has? Okay, so what I'm actually asking here is for you to explain to me how you would get to that number. Okay, so if you say, well, I would add this and this, or I would divide that by that, or I would multiply this by this, that's the answer I'm looking for. I'm not looking for you to say 4,753,000. Okay, by the way, don't say that. It's way wrong. But it's to help you understand I am not asking for the answer to how many honeybees Mrs. Wall has. I'm asking for you to explain to me how you could find out how many honeybees Mrs. Wall has. If you have questions about this, ask me when we are together in a meet or email me. I'd be happy to go through it to make sure that you really understand. It is vitally important in, well, everything, but especially in math this year. Answer the question that you were asked, not the question you think you were asked. Okay, so in this case, you need to explain to me how you would get the answer to how many honeybees Mrs. Wall has. I don't care if you write the answer or not. I'm not reading that part. Write it, don't write it, doesn't matter. What I'm reading is your explanation of how you would find it out. That's part one. Part two, some of you might like this one better. First of all, did you know a honeybee travels about 195 kilometers in 50 round trips to collect enough nectar to make 1 gram of honey? Now, a gram is not much. Okay, if you like honey in your tea, like I do, or maybe on toast, which I also do, I do love honey. You use a lot more than a gram each time you put a spoonful of honey in your tea or in your baking or drizzle it on top of something or in baklava. So bees work really, really hard for that 1 gram of honey. They take about 50 round trips out to the flowers and back to the hive. And that trip, those 50 round trips total about 195 kilometers. So that is a lot of work for 1 gram of honey. Now, the question for you here is about what distance does a honeybee travel in 1 round trip? Okay, so for this one, there is an answer to this problem that is a number. And that number is the approximate distance that a honeybee travels in each one of those round trips. They do take 50, right, to make 1 gram of honey. So you may have to do more than one step to figure this out, but you're going to give me an answer for the number. And then the fun part is in that little box, beside where you do your work in your math journal that says explain your thinking, you're going to tell me how you decided to work this problem out to get that answer. So again, you're going to put a number here, 7 kilometers or whatever. Don't forget the units. That's very important. And then in the box that says explain your thinking, you're going to say, well, I know this and I know that from these facts. So if you multiply this, or if you subtract that, or if you add this, or if you divide that by that, then you can get the answer. So I hope you guys understand what to do for part 2. You put the number, but you also put your thinking about it in your math journal. Again, if you have any questions about this, please reach out by email, ask me. When we're in a synchronous session, can ask me the question and I will do my best to explain it to you then. Good luck.